loose. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, massive story. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. It started over the weekend. Elon Musk, and it's now very clear, sent out an email and, in fact, posted it on X after he spoke with President Trump. So this had the clear backing, green light, and authorization from the President of the United States. And many of you are going to be saying, Jeff. Well, I don't understand. If Elon sends an email, and it's really a 5-minute email, to the entire federal bureaucracy, to all federal workers, asking them specifically, can you list 5 things that you did last week? That's it. We just want to know 5 things that you did last week. And it's clear from the email that he sent, if you haven't done anything, or if, you're just sitting around twiddling your thumbs, then obviously you're not essential personnel and you need to go. From this, all hell has broken loose. The email went out over the weekend. Federal employees began to melt down. In the Treasury Department, in the Labor Department, in the State Department, in the Energy Department, in the Education Department, federal employees, bureaucrats, yelling, screaming. I'm not kidding. Chaos, according to the media, chaos now is gripping the entire government and the entire bureaucracy. People don't know what to do. They feel uncertain. They're going to lose their jobs. People, actually workers, federal government employees. Remember, we pay their salaries. These aren't private sector. These are public sector. We pay their salaries. And they're acting, and literally their response is, this is insulting and this is demeaning. Are you serious? It is insulting and demeaning to be asked what you're doing on your job. List me 5 things. Look, as Sandy and I said in the pre-show production meeting, if our superiors here, if we got an email from, the top people at iHeart saying, hey, could you guys just, take 5 minutes and send us an email? What have you guys done the last week? Give me 5 things you guys have done the last week. I mean, what 5 minutes? It would take me 2 minutes. 5 bullet points, but, I don't know, 5 4-hour shows. Here's all the prep work I did. Here's what I do on social media. Just boom, 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 boom. 3 minutes, 5 minutes tops. It's done. It's over. You think that you are above having to actually respond and account for yourself for what you do? What's so insulting and demeaning? If you're actually working, you can provide 5 bullet points in 2 minutes, 5 minutes tops. What that shows, and I think there's no question about it, is the incredible reaction, the histrionic reaction, the panic, the uproar, both in the media and amongst so many in the federal workforce, is that it proves Elon Musk's point. It proves Donald Trump's point. It proves Doge's point. There is a ton of waste, fraud, and abuse that our federal bureaucracy is so bloated, so wasteful, so fat, so rife with corruption, fraud, and abuse, that if you ask these paper pushers in the bureaucracy to tell, can you just tell us in 5 bullet points, basically, what did you do last week? They can't give an answer. Or they say it's, who are you to ask me what I do at my work? Well, you do serve at the pleasure and the leisure of the American taxpayer. It would be nice for us to know, what the hell do you do all day in that office? Listen now to President Trump. President Trump was asked specifically, the media in his meeting with Macron outside of the issue of Ukraine. And Trump now says, by the way, we could have peace in Ukraine in a couple of weeks. I hope he's right, but let that go. He was asked repeatedly and relentlessly about that email sent by Elon Musk. Trump made it clear, I authorized the email. I want to know, are people working? In fact, listen to Trump's response. He is convinced, along with Elon, that we have God knows how many federal workers who are collecting a salary and a pension, by the way, and they're literally not lifting a finger. They're not working. They've got either they're at home or they've got another job. This is just money and a check being deposited in the bank. Listen now to Trump saying, honestly, we just want to know, are there even people that are working? I mean, they're on the books. They're collecting a salary. They're getting a check deposited in their accounts. But are they even doing anything? Are they even at the office? Listen now to President Trump. Roll cut 2, Mike.
It's pretty clueless for someone to be insulting our police commissioner who's decades of experience.
Mike, that's yesterday. Mike, that's yesterday's cut sheet. This is today's cut sheet, Mike.
To know what you did this week. You know why he wanted that, by the way? I thought it was great. Because we have people that don't show up to work and nobody even knows if they work for the government. So by asking the question, tell us what you did this week, what he's doing is saying, are you actually working? And then if you don't answer, like you're sort of semi-fired or you're fired, because a lot of people are not answering because they don't even exist. They're trying to find, that's how badly various parts of our government were run by, and especially by this last group. So what they're doing is they're trying to find out who's working for the government. Are we paying other people that aren't working? And, you know, where's all that? Where's the money gone? We have found hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud so far, and we've just started.
He's completely right. Look, as I reported in the past, okay, and it ties in directly to what we're talking about now. Over 25 million Americans over the age of 100 are collecting Social Security checks. They're registered in the Social Security database. Tens of millions over the age of 120. The oldest person in the United States is 112. One person is 112. The oldest person, I think, in the world is what, 114, 115? So this shows you the massive extent of the waste, fraud, and abuse. Now, Elon and Trump are saying, you have no idea. We're looking at potentially hundreds of thousands of federal workers who literally are not working. They're either at home watching Jerry Springer and getting stoned all day, and the check just keeps coming in, cha-ching, 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 every 2 weeks, or they're doing another job, like whatever, private sector job, whatever. They're doing something else. And the offices are empty, nobody's working, and the checks just keep coming. So literally, one of the reasons why they sent out the email was, do they even open their emails? Can they even explain what they do at their job? That's why it was, just name us 5 things that you did. Now, the fact that there was so much panic to begin with, as I said, I don't want to beat a dead horse. If Bob Pittman, who runs iHeart, sent out a massive company-wide email, And, one to me, one to Sandy, one to Mike, and said, what did you guys do last week? Just name me 5 things. I'd like, well, okay. You asked. Here it is. Boom, 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 boom. He'd have it back in 5 minutes. I mean, really, I would say, my response would be, do you want the long version or the short version? Because I could write you a mini book. Seriously. I could write you a novella of what I do in a week. But if you don't want to go through thousands of words, just 5 bullet points, you got it. 5 minutes, ching, I hit send, you got it. So the fact that they're panicking tells you everything you need to know. Now, I want to make one last point very quick, and then I want to go to the phone line 617-266-6868. Notice how all of these federal bureaucrats, all of these federal workers and employees, okay, the swamp, the rules don't apply to them. How many times all of you working in the private sector, how many times have you been asked by your superiors or your boss, what did you do last week? What are some of the things that you've been doing? Can you catch me up to speed? Do you get offended? Do you get insulted? No. 619 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, lines are loaded, and I always keep my word. I said, you call, lines are jammed, I will go straight to the calls. So let me ask all of you this. Let me just set the table, and we're ready to go. Elon Musk has now sent a email across the entire federal bureaucracy asking every federal worker, basically tell me 5 things that you've done last week. And when I say all hell is broken loose, I've never seen anything like this. People are threatening to quit. They say it's chaos, it's pandemonium, it's insulting, it's demeaning. So and of course the media is piling on. So I want to ask you, do you think it is insulting and demeaning to ask public sector employees, remember, our taxes pay their salaries, to justify what they do, to find out what they do, to ask them what they do, and to have them respond in a 5-minute email, 5 bullet points of what they do in a week? Is this unreasonable? Number one. Number two, have you ever been asked at your job, say if there's new management that comes in or new ownership or whatever, to explain your position and justify what you do or explain what you do at your job? I can tell you I've done this many times. Multiple times in my career. We had new ownership, new management, a new editor, for example, at the Washington Times. And hey, I can't, I don't know, it's an organization of thousands of people. I don't know you all on a personal basis. So what do you do? Tell me, what do you do in a week? I never felt insulted or demeaned. I say, oh, this is outrageous. How dare you treat me like this? I'm like, okay, you want to know? Here it is. Why is it that these federal fat cat bureaucrats think that they're not accountable and that the rules don't apply to them? Rules in the private sector that most of us have to adhere to on a regular basis somehow don't apply to them. Agree, disagree. Michael in Canton. You're going to kick us off, Michael. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Michael.
I am a long life private sector employee, and any company that I've ever worked for has metrics so that there is accountability across the spectrum of all employees. In fact, all of our salespeople have to use a program that monitors what they do, who they're calling, what the results are, and this way management can make decisions for the benefit of the business and what direction it will go in. Why is it that the public sector gets away with that? To me, that's nonsense. They get a pension. Now, some of them are even getting Social Security on top of their pension. What has gone wrong with the public sector? It is bloated, inefficient, and it needs to stop now.
And Michael, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, and by the way, very powerful. Usually now, I don't know if you've seen the studies coming out, federal bureaucrats, public sector workers make twice, in some cases 2.5 times, what private sector workers make. So not only do they have these gold-plated health plans and gold-plated pensions, and you're right, even Social Security on top of their incredible pensions, but they're making about double or 2.5 times the salary that most people in the private sector make. And, you know, Michael, if you don't mind me asking, if I'm getting too personal, please tell me. I know there's a tracking system. You've laid that out very well. But have you ever in your career, you know, had a supervisor or new management, or, because it's happened to me multiple times, say, hey, Michael, what do you do? Like, just tell me in a week, or your job description, or what is it that you do at work? Could you send us an email? Let us know. Have you had to do that, Michael? A, and B, would you find it, I don't know, I'm so insulted. Oh my God. They're not valuing my professionalism. How dare they deign to ask me what I do? I mean, wouldn't your attitude be, okay, you want to know? You're the boss. Here's what I do. Would you be offended? Would you be insulted, Michael?
Not insulted. It's happened to me. I've had top management come and ask me what's going on. What are you doing this week? And I'm not insulted. In fact, I'm glad they're asking, because to me, that means that they are on top of their business, which is why I work for a successful company. And I want the same thing happening in the government that I pay my taxes to. I want results, period.
Michael, drop the mic. Excellent. Excellent. I could not agree with you more. Seriously, dead on. Absolutely dead on. Mary in Brockton. Thanks for holding, Mary, and welcome.
Hi, good morning. I work for VA Boston, and I just wanted to say that we did get the email listing 5 things. Part of my team is melting down about it. Me personally, I think it's important to be holding people accountable for their work. We have plenty of people that show up 15, 20, 30 minutes late. And mind you, we're not punching a time clock. So these people that show up late every day are getting paid for it. It's insane. I think more jobs should be holding people accountable, asking them to write down 5 things. 5 things is not very many.
Mary, if you don't mind me asking, and I may have to hold you over, what are they complaining about? Like, what is it that so offended them, you know, at VA Boston? They are there to serve the veterans. It's, you know, their salaries based off of the taxpayer on the taxpayer's dime. What were they so offended? List us 5 things that you did last week. What were they complaining about, Mary?
Complaining about just having to write the email. We have one in particular team member that took until 1 o'clock.
Mary, you know, Mike, these breaks are killing me. I just want you to know that, Mike. So anyway, Mary, I'm up against a break. Please hang on. I want to come right back to you. So they're complaining that they even had to write the email. More with Mary next. 6:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Panic, disruption, chaos, pandemonium, insulting, demeaning, infuriating. Those are just some of the words, I'm not kidding, that federal employees, federal workers are using to describe the email that was sent by Elon with the full backing and support of President Trump, asking employees to name 5 things that they did last week on the job. And when I say all hell is broken loose, all hell is broken loose. Let's go right back to Mary in Brockton. She's one of those federal employees. She works for VA Boston. She said she was happy to get the email, happy to respond to the email, and supports the email having been sent out. However, Mary was saying that some of her colleagues were not so happy. Mary, are you there, Mary? Do we have you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay, excellent. So Mary, you were saying that some of your colleagues were not happy with the email. They were upset. You said one in particular complained that they had to actually write the email and that it took so much time that it was eating into their other chores and responsibilities?
Yes. So he did not do any work and was still saying that he could not take on any work at 1:00 yesterday afternoon because he was writing his 5 bullet points. When I got in yesterday morning, I was so excited to do it. I wrote 5 things for each day for last week that I did and completed, and I think that we all need to be held accountable. It's fair to the taxpayers.
Oh, Mary, you're 1,000% correct. But sorry. So he comes in at about 9:30, whenever he comes in, and he's still writing that email, and it's 1:00 in the afternoon.
Oh yeah, and this is a daily occurrence with this. Well, I won't call him a team member because he's not. He's a milker. Milks out everything during the day and avoids work as much as possible. And these are the people that are giving the government employees a bad name. Incredible.
Mary, how much waste, fraud, and abuse do you think is prevalent in the federal bureaucracy? How many people do you think, like this person, really not doing anything all day? That's why he doesn't know what to put down in the email, because he doesn't do anything. How many do you think just don't even show up? Ever since COVID, many of them have been home. They're not showing up at the office. They haven't in 4 or 5 years now. And Trump and Musk are suspicious, and they suspect many of them are probably doing another job or literally not doing their job at all. How prevalent do you think that is, Mary?
I think it's pretty prevalent. I mean, we have our direct supervisor who is allowed to work from home whenever she chooses, and people on our team just do whatever they want because there's no accountability. And when you bring it to their attention, they say that you're picking on them, and they come up with these buzzwords, you're harassing me, things like that.
Wow. Mary, let me ask you this final question. Trump and Elon say they can save at least $1 trillion, maybe $2 trillion by cutting out all this fat, waste, bloat, fraud, abuse, which you're kind of describing now. Do you think they're right?
Yes, I do. I would say in my department alone, we could do away with half the staff and be fine.
Half? Wow. Mary, have you ever called a show before?
No, I've never called in.
Mary, don't be a stranger. What a call. Mary, phenomenal call. Thank you for your courage, and thank you for your service, because we definitely need people working at the VA. And it's great that we have great patriots like you working at the VA. Well, there you go. I mean, she's basically saying Elon is right. Trump is right. That's why they're all squealing and screaming and screeching and yelling and hollering and, oh my God, how dare you? Because half of them should be fired. They're not working. Do you know what 50% of the entire workforce is? The federal bureaucracy? There's 2 million bureaucrats. We can cut 1 million. And the government will work even better. You can't make this up. 617-266-6868. Okay, just very, very quick. This is from Jim on Messenger. Jeff, I am the CFO at my place. Congratulations, Chief Financial Officer. Well done there, Jim. Every week, everyone needs to give me a report for what they will be doing every week. I have required this for years. No, I know. It's very common in the private sector. They ask him to do it once. Elon and Trump say, okay, just one time. What did you do? 5 things that you did last week. By the way, many of you are saying, Jeff, I do 10, 15 things a day. What 5 in a week? I do a dozen a day. What 5 in a week? And they're like, it's 1:00 in the afternoon. Been working on this email for 4 hours. Oh, jeez, 5 in a week? That's like one thing a day. Does going to the bathroom, does that count? Does hitting the snack bar, the vending machine, does that count? Ay. Okay. All right. Let me, one more. This is from, Mark in Medford. And I think Mark makes an absolutely, dynamite point. So this is what Mark in Medford says. Jeff, that's the problem. They're not doing any work. So to ask them to take 5 minutes to answer a freaking email involves actual work, which would probably be the most work that they've done since they've been there. And if these people even exist, and the ones that do are freaking out saying, OMG, the people want us to actually work? Oh, no, we can't have that. Well, Jeff, I have a message for these federal workers. Do your job or you're fired. Well, that's pretty much implicit, right, in the email that was sent by Musk and by Trump. In other words, can you justify your job? Are you really actually doing any work? Are you doing any productive work? And as we heard from Mary in Brockton, she said, look, I can just tell you in my team, in my circle in the federal bureaucracy, 50% can be fired, no problem. And we'd be leaner, meaner, more efficient. 50%. So there you go. Vince in Deutschland. Vince. The alternative for Germany did pretty good, my buddy. 20%, second place. And I think they're rising. So Germany first is on the move. So there's hope for Germany, my friend. Vince, what say you about all of this?
Well, as far as Germany goes, they're another election cycle away from righting the ship because meet the new government, same as the old government. They're going to keep the border open, and it's just going to tick people off even more. And I see new elections coming probably in 2 years. But let that go, Jeff. My wife works for the government. She works for DOD. She's dealing with this right now. And the unfortunate thing is she has a probationary employee who's a very hard worker, but he's taken it all in stride. He understands what's going on. He understands that it needs to happen, and he might be the victim. But like I said, he's taken it all in stride. My wife has been in her present position since last January when we came over here. She's been working for the federal government for 18 years. And her last job, she was like, there's so much abuse and fraud going on. It's flabbergasting. She's a government accountant, so she sees the numbers.
Wow.
And, I mean, these people take 2-hour lunches. You could definitely fire half the workforce. These aren't serious people. And I tell you, they're like petulant little children that you've just spoiled to the point where you ask them just to pick up their clothes and they throw a complete hissy fit. You know what I mean? And these are adults. It's completely mind-boggling that it's allowed to go on. But I tell you, ever since COVID...
Vince, I want you to finish your thought, and I've got 2 questions for you. Vince, Mike, I gotta say, man, you're really heavy on that button today, Mike. Let me just say this. I'm up against the break. Please, Vince, hang on. I'm gonna come right back to you. Don't touch that dial. The email from hell. At least that's how federal bureaucrats and federal workers are taking it. One email from Elon Musk, backed by Trump, and saying, what did you do last week? Could you just name me 5 things? Like, just take 5 minutes and in bulletproof form, bullet point form if you can. Just, nice little bullets there. And just tell us, basically, what did you do? Give me 5 things you did. And there's a revolt going on now in the entire federal bureaucracy. 6:50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. All right, let's go right back to Vince in Germany. His wife works for the Department of Defense. She's an accountant. She has personally seen a lot of the waste, fraud, and abuse up front. And Vince says there's a lot of it. Elon is onto something. Trump is definitely onto something. And COVID. You mentioned something about COVID, Vince, and then we got cut off by the break. Please pick up where you left off.
Well, when COVID hit, they kind of just had people furloughed them and sent them home, and they would work remotely. And they got used to doing that, and they had to monitor. I mean, they had Zoom meetings and stuff, but they really had to monitor closely what they were doing. But then they didn't monitor it. And I believe that COVID, by design, was meant to just further bloat the bureaucracy and to create chaos, just to create a breakdown where nothing gets done. You know what I mean? And it was meant to collapse the economy as well. I mean, let's face it, Jeff, we know the 2020 election was rigged. And the reason why it was rigged was the one thing that they could not get Trump on was the economy. And how do you stop the economy? With a global pandemic. That's how you do it, and we're still living with the aftermath of it. Like I said, there's no oversight. They say you go into Washington, D.C., it's like a ghost town. Elon Musk says you walk into these federal buildings on a Monday afternoon and they're empty. There's nobody there. So they're definitely onto something. These people aren't working. They're not working. We don't even know if they exist. They could just be like, the 120-year-old Social Security recipient.
That's
right?
Well, I think Vince, I think you put your finger right on it. That's what many in the audience are saying. I think people are collecting a check. The check is going somewhere. It's going in someone's account. But these are essentially phantom jobs. Like these Social Security checks. You got phantom, people 120, 130, 140 years old by the millions. And someone's collecting the check. So I think you're dead on. Vince, if you don't mind me asking you, and I don't want to get your wife in trouble. So if it's something that's going to get your wife in trouble, please just say, forget it. I promise I won't be offended. You said, Jeff, look, my wife has seen it up front. She works at DOD. So how rampant is these 2-hour lunches, taking afternoons off, long weekends, not even showing up to work? Is this just one bad apple here, one bad apple there, or is this pretty much systemic across the entire bureaucracy?
It's systemic and it's commonplace. I could tell you that last summer, my wife was alone in the office doing 3 jobs because her supervisor and her coworker were on vacation doing European vacation. And I was saying to her, I'm like, how much vacation time do they have? You know what I mean? It's like you have to actually have vacation time to take vacation. Who's monitoring their timesheets? Who's monitoring their vacation? You know what I mean? When I was on active duty, you got 30 days a year vacation, but that's active duty, and that's like an anomaly. That's not normal, Like in the civilian sector, what do you have to build up like 20, 30 years of service to get 2 weeks vacation, right? In the federal service, you have 4-day weekends. Every federal holiday, you get a 4-day weekend, all right? So that's almost like every month you're getting a 4-day weekend. Right? Then you're getting 2-3 weeks vacation, but still, you whittle, you're burning both ends of the candle. You're showing up late in the morning, you're leaving early in the afternoon, and they're taking 2-hour lunches. And you know what they did? I tell you, this really stood out. This really stood out to me. During Halloween time, and this was a month before Halloween, Everyone decided to go over to the mall and buy Halloween decorations to decorate the office. That was their priority. I'm like, honey, you don't work with serious people. This is a clown show. And she hates to hear it, but she knows I'm right.
And this is the Department of Defense, correct, Vince?
Exactly.
They're supposed to be protecting us. Allegedly from Vladimir Putin and the Russians. Right, am I wrong?
And I mean, we're closer to Vladimir Putin and the Russians than you are. So go figure.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Vince, dynamite call. 617. This is how you can't make this up. The guy's in Germany. His wife's working in Germany. Right? Yeah, how close Germany is to Ukraine and Russia. And they're all going on, Putin's going to invade. Putin's going to invade. What do we do on Halloween? Every pumpkins, candy, costumes. Come on now. You can't make this stuff up. 617-266-6868. Jeff in Lawrence. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good. I mean, boy, am I in the wrong line of work, Jeff. I should have been a federal bureaucrat. Boy, did I miss my calling in life. I could get used to this.
You don't want to, Jeff. Your mind will go stale. Don't federal employees fall under the purview of the executive branch?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't see why. Well, obviously they're upset because Trump is Trump. But what's interesting is that he has found a way, potentially, to balance the budget and cut costs without even having Congress involved. And these people have such a strident arrogance about them. It used to be in the public sector, you had a steady job, you had good benefits and a good retirement, but the salaries were lower. These clowns in Washington are making, $250,000 a year, $300,000 a year, $175,000. They're making a boatload of money, and they're not doing that much. And they get the benefits and the pensions that we all have to pay for. And, it's time to clean some house a little bit, because guess what? If they don't do it, if this ship tips over, which I'm surprised it hasn't yet because of the debt that we have and the devaluation of our currency, they're all going to be very unhappy because none of them will have jobs.
Oh, you're dead on. Look, the thing's going to go broke. I mean, it's going to go bankrupt. That's why Elon and Trump are saying we have to make these cuts. They're like, this is unsustainable. Like, there's no way this country can sustain this. And, Jeff, I just want to clarify, because you're dead on. You're completely right. But, people may be thinking, oh, well, Jeff's talking about, members of Congress or senators that make 175 or 200. They do. But a lot of them are federal bureaucrats. And, $250, $300, $350, $400,000. And you're like, what do you do all day? And, I don't know if you've seen Elon, some of his posts on X. He says, I'm going into federal building after federal building after federal building. They're empty. And I mean, empty, cobwebs, empty. No one's been here in months. So we're renting out all that space or whatever. We own it, but we're not doing anything with it. And the workers are all at home. And nobody's watching or monitoring the workers. Now, I'll never forget this, Jeff. I knew COVID was a boondoggle. This true story. I forget what the occasion was. I forget now. This was during the pandemic. And, but like about a year into the pandemic. And we went to a nice little local pub, that was open. It was outside. So the kids wanted some sandwiches, like a club sandwich or whatever. So we went to this pub that served great sandwiches, and we're outside. Grace, myself, and the kids. And there were 3 state employees behind me, Massachusetts state employees. And the reason why I knew they were Massachusetts state employees was because I began chatting with them and, talking with them. And they said, Jeff, we haven't been to work now in 9 months. All we do is stay home, and these were their words, do nothing. I'm like, so hold on, you guys are getting paid. Oh, yeah, full salary, full benefits, we don't do a thing. And they were laughing and giggling, and this was like on a Thursday or on a Friday. And they're like today. And they're laughing. And then they raised they ordered beer with their lunch. They raised their glass. Charlie Baker was then the governor. And they said, Tobacco. And there they were, clinking glasses. And I'm like, man, oh man, this thing is an absolute grift. This is a grift of the highest order. I mean, they're robbing us blind. And that's when I said, these people aren't serious. Baker's not serious. None of these governors are serious. And they're going to leave us, the taxpayers, with the tab. And that's essentially what's happened. Now, what to me is incredible, Jeff, is okay, you rip off the system for 6 months, 9 months, a year. But 5 years now? Well, it's time to go back to work. And so Trump gave him a deadline. Elon and Trump said, we want you back at work. What was it, this week or whatever the deadline is? We want you back at work. If you're not back at work, you're not serious, we're going to fire you. And the media is going apoplectic. The public sector unions are going crazy. The federal employees, this is slavery. Enough is enough. Jeff, they're robbing us blind. Am I wrong, Jeff?
No, and we're paying all the utilities for those buildings to stay warm and keep the lights on, in addition to all these salaries. This has been going on for decades, Jeff. Trump needs to employ his iconic, one-liner, you're fired.
You're fired.
I never watched the show, but boy.
Oh, we need it. No, I know. You're fired. You're fired. Just line them up. You're fired. You're fired. Jeff, thank you very, very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Okay, let me ask you, double-barreled question. Do you think it's unreasonable for Elon Musk to have sent that email to federal workers, federal employees, asking them what they did last week? 5 things that they did last week. Do you think this is somehow out of bounds? Is this insulting? Should this be offensive to workers? And number 2, to you, all of you, have you been asked by your superior or management or boss to report on what you do during the day, during the week? And did you find it offensive? I'm just curious. 617-266-6868. Leo in Rentham. Thanks for holding, Leo, and welcome.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. How many hours a day do you work? 6 to 10?
Well, but I do a lot more than just 6 to 10, Leo.
You're probably back in bed at 10:30 in the morning.
I wish.
Well, I enjoy listening to you, but I don't know. 6 to 10, those are pretty good hours.
Well, I get up at 2:30 every morning, Leo, so I get up very early. And I come in very early here to the studio in Medford, and we go through a lot of clips. We do the post-show production, and I do a lot of show prep. I do a lot of reading to prepare for the show. It's not, I just don't come on the air, Leo, and it just, off the top of my head. So I work easy 12 to 14 hours a day to put together a quality show. I mean, I do other things as well. There are meetings afterwards. I have other responsibilities. But in terms of, show prep, doing the show, post-show production, pre-show production, getting the clips together, discussing what the topics are going to be, I'm putting in 12 to 14 hours a day, Leo. That's why I'd love it, frankly, if management sent me an email and said, can you tell me what you did last week? 5 things. I'd say, I'll give you 20 a day. Never mind 5. Forget the week. Never mind 5 a day. I'll give you 20 a day. So, Leo, if my boss sent me an email asking me what did I do last week, I'd have no problem writing him an email. Now, Leo, you seem a little defensive on this. Do you work for the city by any chance? Oh, Leo hung up. That's too bad. Because he lives in Rentham, so technically if he works for the city, my taxes are paying his salary. So I'd like to know what Leo does. What does he do? 6-1. Notice how these government bureaucrats now, very touchy. Have you noticed that? Well, you're on the air 6 to 10. Yeah, it's a little more than just 4 hours on the air. Carrie in West Bridgewater. Thanks for holding, Carrie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Carrie.
As a veteran of the dreaded private sector, that's all I've ever worked in is the dreaded private sector. I have been laid off 3 times in the past 12 years, including a job that I had for almost 20 years, which I thought I was going to retire from. And I got laid off. I would have been there 20 years, November 2013, and they laid me off in August of 2013. I don't understand the histrionics over these public sector workers either losing their jobs or having to justify their jobs. Is it awful to be laid off? Yes. Is it soul crushing? Yes. Does it shake your confidence? Absolutely. But you dust yourself off, you get your resume together, you go get another job. They're no more special than anyone in the private sector. I don't understand why they think, I work in financial services, so during COVID, we had to be there. They put us in a conference room upstairs. They separate, because we had to social distance. I had no desk. I was sitting at a conference room table, 4 of us on the corners so we could socially distance. I don't understand why these public sector workers think they're absolved from actually working. We had to work. Why can't they?
Carrie, I agree with you completely. And look, it's not just that they don't want to work, is that they think they're untouchable. See, the rules don't apply to them. You're right. People in the private sector get laid off all the time. And I mean excellent workers, devoted, loyal workers who've put in years and years and years. People like you, Carrie, in a company, and you're actually thinking, hey, I think I may even retire on this job, with this job. And before you know it, whatever, a recession hits or whatever, change in management or whatever it is, whatever the reason, and you're out on the street. And you're right. It is soul crushing. It's a real blow. You lose a lot of self-confidence because you think you personalize it, which you never should, by the way. Trust me, I've been involved in so many of these things over the years where they make decisions. It has nothing to do with your personal merit. You're just a number on a chart sheet, on a line item. That's all you are. You personalize it. You think, well, I did this and I did this and I did this and I've been so loyal. And they don't look at it that way. They look at, I'm just going to use a fake name now. Carrie Johnson, okay, $125,000 salary, these kind of benefits in this department. Well, we need a 47% reduction in this department. I can't, 125,000. Nah, we got to cut that. Okay. I mean, that's literally how they look at it. It's a number on a spreadsheet. They don't look at it as a human being, a person, their value, their merit, their talent. They don't look at it like that. That's why I've told people over and over again, don't take it personally when you're laid off. Believe me, it's not personal. But it's hard. I understand that. It's really hard. And to me, that's the greatest lesson. One of the greatest lessons my parents ever taught me is you're going to have failures in life. You're going to get laid low. And the key is, my father always said this, the key in life is not how hard you hit. It's how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. Because life is going to hit you with blow after blow. So will you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward. And he said, if you do that, he goes, you will succeed. If not, you're in a world of hurt. Because then you're at the mercy of forces larger than you. And so, Carrie, you're right. And to me, the scariest thing about all this, really, these government, and I know there's excellent people like, Marion Brockton who called. I know there's very devoted people who work in government. No question. No question. But the attitude that so many of them have, that the rules don't apply to them. No, layoffs, that's for the private sector. No. Progress reports on what you do and your performance and your responsibilities, that's for the private sector. Whatever, taking a pay cut, or that's for the private sector. Having to show up at the office 5 days a week, that's for the private sector. They think the rules don't apply to them. They think they're untouchable. They're the swamp. They're the permanent government. They're the permanent bureaucracy. Well, Carrie, Trump and Elon are giving them now a wake-up call. Welcome to reality. You're not untouchable, and we're going to take a chainsaw to this bureaucracy. Final word to you, Carrie.
Exactly, and if I could add to what your father said, one of the things I've learned from, especially that job that I had for 20 years, nobody is indispensable. So I do have a job now. I've had it for 4 years. I don't have a lot of things, personal things, at my desk like I used to. There are no photos. There are no, personal knickknacks or anything, because if, God forbid, it happens again, I could...
Oh, you're dead on. You're right. No, right. And look, here, God is my witness. Okay? Here, Sandy, Mike, I don't have any personal items at the office. Not one family picture, not one picture of my kids. Why? If I'm out of work, I'm out the door. It's not personal. It's business. 7:19 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Kuhner Country, I would love for as many of you to participate in this as possible. Let's do our own Elon Musk email test. Okay, so let me ask all of you. If your superior, supervisor, boss, however you want to phrase it, sent you an email asking you to name 5 things you did last week on the job, just 5 things that you did at your work, at your job last week, how long would it take you to write the email, the response email? A, 5 minutes or under. B, 5 to 15 minutes. Forgive me. 15 to 30 minutes. C, over an hour. So you get an email from your boss, supervisor saying, hey, Joe Schmo, here, Jeff Kuhner. Jeff. What the hell did you do last week? Can you give me 5 things that you did last week? Okay. How long would it take for you to write that email? A, 5 minutes or under. B, 15 to 30 minutes. C, over an hour. Now, I know for some of these federal workers, I'm not kidding, it's taking days. It's taking all day, it's taking days. Yeah, but we'll keep it, semi-normal. I'm an A. It's 5 bullets, bang. I mean, I 2 minutes, I think 3 minutes tops. Okay? If I'm really hitting the Diet Coke hard, maybe 5 minutes. But there's no way it takes me more than 5 minutes. But that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in National ER, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in National ER, or if you prefer, you can vote via X. Very active last night. My handle, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN as in National ER. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Jeff, I'm self-employed. I plan what I will do in the coming week, and I can tell you what I did in the past week. And let's face it, accountability is everything. First of all, what Elon Musk is doing on a federal level, I have advocated for an overhead evaluation analysis of the state government since 1988, the year of the balanced budget scam by our state government. The private sector demands accountability without question, okay? President Trump and Elon Musk, the real-life dynamic duo, they are working to preserve this great country from bankruptcy. There is no question that we are on the road to bankruptcy if we keep doing what we're doing, okay? The federal budget is out of control, okay? Now, Jeff, can I mention something else off topic?
Yes, Russ, but before you do, can I just ask you one quick question? Now, I understand you're self-employed, so you're your own boss. But just if you could humor me on this. If I, sent you an email, or if say Elon sent you an email, okay? And said, Russ, 5 things. What did you do last week at work? Honestly, how fast would it take you to give those bullet points and send it back to him?
Maybe 5 minutes, okay? But, Jeff, let me add something else to that.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay? I started work when I was 14 years old. The person that I worked for had one rule. I'm paying you, and I don't want to see you standing still, pick up a broom, do whatever you have to do. I learned the work ethic from that individual that lasted me the rest of my life. And before I was self-employed, no matter where I worked, I was always compensated very well because I did more than most other people who worked there because I learned the work ethic. And those that learn the work ethic survive very well in this world. Believe me when I say that from experience, okay? Now, Jeff, what I was about to ask to say is this. What President Trump will negotiate between Ukraine and Russia could have been accomplished in the last 4 years without bloodshed if President Trump was the president for the last 4 years. And I'll tell you, when I listen to these stupid warmonger fools, especially these idiots in Europe that saber rattle against the Russians and then depend on Big Brother over here to bail them out, it is unbelievable, Jeff. There is no way, if you look at history, if you look at what the Russians went through during World War II, there's no way that they would allow NATO troops in Ukraine, okay? And seriously, what's to prevent some dictator, SOB, in Europe to come to power again as what's happened in the past? Remember one thing. For the last 80 years, we've kept the Europeans from killing themselves, which they were killing themselves for years. And both you and I have a European descent, and at least we can be honorable and tell the truth.
Russ, you and my wife really are on the same page. I agree with you, too. But when I listen to you, it's almost like I'm listening to Grace over dinner. It was her point. In fact, last night, she said almost pretty much verbatim what you said. She said, Jeff, it's been 100 years now. 100 years we've bailed Europe out. We prevented them from slaughtering each other in World War I, in World War II, in the Cold War. And here we are again trying to stop one of the greatest mass slaughters since the Second World War. And the Europeans dump on us? And we're the bad guys? Russ, I think there's a sense now in the country that, you know what? If Europe wants to go on its own, go. I mean, in a way, we've had it, because you're right. All we do is save the Europeans from destroying each other. And Trump, he says he can get a deal in a couple of weeks. We'll see. But if he does it, give him the Nobel Peace Prize. Russ, thank you very much for that call. Okay. Was Elon's email out of bounds? Your call's next. 7:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, listen to the new iHeartRadio app with preset buttons. You can set the app to play the Kuhner Report automatically. All right, this is from Marianne on Messenger, and I think she hits the nail right on the head. Jeff, good morning. Well, good morning to you, Marianne. I work from home 18 out of 20 work days a month. We are monitored. Keystrokes on our laptops. And in the almost 11 years that I've been with this company, we have been asked many times to track what we do and write it down. Private sector. So these employees in the public sector would never, and she puts never in caps, keep a job in the private sector. Even before we went remote a year ago, we had to do this. So, basically, these public sector employees couldn't last 3 days in the private sector. That I can't tell you how many messages I've gotten, how many emails I've gotten, how many text messages I've gotten in the last hour and a half of the show, where people are, Jeff, I'm in the private sector. They ask us what we do all the time. They're always asking us what we're doing, monitoring, tracking, what have you done today? What'd you do last week? What are you planning to do next week? And they're all freaking out. These public sector employees are all, their hair's on fire. Now, why is their hair on fire? Here it is. This is from 603. Jeff, and I know this person very well. He's a good friend of mine, great fan of the show, so I know this is true. Jeff, now listen to this. This is where your taxpayer money is going. You want to know why we need Doge? Here it is, right here. Jeff, my brother-in-law has been a park ranger here in New England for the U.S. National Park Service for decades. And of course, he's a big-time lefty who dutifully supports all the lefty causes. As an example of how vital his job is to our nation, during the winter, his duties are this. He gives snowshoe tours. Yes, your taxpayer dollars pay for a career to going snowshoeing around the woods and giving tours to throngs of liberals while spouting off about the evils of climate change. When you see how populated these agencies are with lefties, you quickly realize what a long-established racket this is in the colleges. Turn out good little commies and then point them towards cushy government jobs. As the old George Gershwin song goes, nice work if you can get it. And yes, Jeff, he's now sweating that his quote-unquote job might get cut. In other words, the grift is over. That's why they're panicking about one little email. Now, very quickly, lines are jammed. I want to go to Faith in Maine. But just before I go to Faith in Maine, this is M.T. Snyder, employee on the National Labor Relations Board, speaking to This is CNN. She's M.T. Snyder, infuriated. She's infuriated, she says. Livid, angry, insulted. Because she was asked what she did last week at her job. Roll cut 6, Mike.
Just tell us about this email and what it was like receiving it and what you all have talked about after getting it.
Sure. I got this email Saturday afternoon, about 3 p.m., and I felt absolutely infuriated getting this email with a demand within 48 hours to provide a response on what I did within the last week or face termination. This is clearly an attempt from Elon Musk to harass and bully and intimidate the federal workforce, which is part of his broader plan to gut the federal workforce. and privatize public sector services to ensure that corporations like his own can get more profit. And that makes me really angry, and my coworkers as well.
I mean, I don't know where to begin. So Elon is going to make money off of this? Where's your evidence? None. But look at the sense of entitlement. I mean, you want to talk about a spoiled brat. They gave me 48 hours to respond. Okay, that's the end of Monday. So your weekend hasn't even been ruined. So enjoy your weekend. You come in Monday morning. But, okay, 5 minutes is too much for you. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 5 things that you did last week. Now notice, the rules don't apply to her. Again, look, she's untouchable. How dare you ask me to tell you what I do at my job? This is offensive. This is infuriating. Why? It's done in the private sector all the time. Like, what do you have to hide? If you're actually a productive, efficient, necessary, a functional worker, what's the problem? What's the problem? And then, he's going to gut the federal workforce. Well, yeah, they're going to save $1 trillion or $2 trillion. Yeah. So are you part of the meat or are you part of the fat? In other words, are you part of the excess waste and bloat and fraud and abuse, the fat? Or are you actually a necessary employee? Yeah. Like, what is this, a lifetime sinecure? Like, really, what is this, I'm sorry, did I miss the memo? If you work for the federal government, you're guaranteed a job for life? What is this, communism? It's a lifetime appointment and there's nothing nobody can do about it? The arrogance of these people, the sense of entitlement, the selfishness. And look, I have to say this, and it's not that we don't have great public service workers. We do. And we need people to work in government. Please, so don't misunderstand me. But a government worker, by the nature of their job, salary is based off of taxpayers, meaning people in the private sector. People in the private sector, their salaries is based off of their labor and their production. You don't produce, you're out. You don't add value, you're out. Look, to put it crudely, if I'm not making money for, you think iHeart employs me because it's a sense of charity? No, it's a business. If this show isn't bringing in high ratings, which then translates into revenue, ad revenue. In other words, I'm generating profit. I'm generating value for the company. I'm out. This is not a lifetime appointment. I never once, and I even have a contract. And even with the contract, I'm just being frank with you, I don't assume like my job is guaranteed. I mean, so this sense that I'm going to have a job for the rest of my life and nobody has the right to fire me. Hell, nobody has the right to even ask me what I do at my job. She's arrogant. She's an arrogant elitist. And my guess, she's not an essential employee. Because if you're an essential employee, if you know you carry your water in the office, like Mary in Brockton, the one that called us, over an hour ago? Yeah, I got the email, no problem. Sent it back in 5 minutes. Ask me, you need anything else? Please let me know. If you're a real worker, a productive worker, an efficient worker, this doesn't bother you. If you're a freeloader and a parasite and a leech, this bothers you. It's almost, and that's why I want to play this cut by Trump. Because Trump's basically saying, no. We sent the email to find out, are people even working? Roll cut 2A, Mike. Mike, it's a 13-second cut. What do you mean, no time? 7:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, before we play that cut from Donald Trump yesterday at his joint press conference with Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, my sister texted me a couple minutes ago. And she works as well. She works in the healthcare sector. Jeff, I have to report what I do all the time. Notice this woman that went on CNN, this federal employee, said Elon wants to cut their government jobs so companies like his will profit. Well, she said it. Profit. His company profits because it produces and it's profitable. This is a new concept to these government suckers. How about you just work and shut up? Well, I mean, they love sucking off that public teat. Let me tell you. They don't want to let go. That's obviously what's going on here. So listen now to Trump saying, no, I thought the email was genius. Why? Because I think many people are, as Trump put it, there are many people out there who aren't even working. They're not even at the office. In fact, they're probably collecting a check and not doing a darn thing. Roll cut to A. Mike.
There was a lot of genius in sending it. We're trying to find out if people are working. And so we're sending a letter to people. Please tell us what you did last week. If people don't respond, it's very possible that there is no such person or they're not working.
Bingo. Bingo. They're basically phantom jobs. And now I'm telling you, there are, I guarantee you, hundreds of thousands, like those Social Security checks, to over 25 million people who are over 100 years old. It's impossible. So somebody's cashing the checks. Well, someone's been cashing these checks. The checks are going into bank accounts. But are they even doing anything? Or are they doing another job or just staying at home and literally not, they don't even open their emails. So that's why the swamp is in a full panic, because Trump is now, and Elon, they're lifting the curtain. And the more we see, the more disgusted we are. Agree, disagree. John in Dunstable. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, John.
Jeff, I just wanted to say this, that my wife worked for Leahy Clinic for almost 30 years, and every Monday by noontime, they all had to send in what they did the week before. That's a fact, Jeff. And she's been retired for at least 5 years. So this has been going on for a long time. And another thing I wanted to say, Jeff, is
John, hold on. I promise I'll give you all the time in the world. I won't. I don't mean to cut you off, but when your wife was asked, performance updates, responsibility updates, job updates, to be monitored and to just give an update on what she's doing and what she's planning to do, was your wife offended? Was she saying, oh my God, they're questioning my professionalism. This is demeaning. This is a slap in the face. This is harassment. This is persecution. These are intolerable work conditions. Honestly, John, did she react that way, or did she just say, sure, you want the info? I'll give you the info. You want to know what I did? Here's what I did. What was her attitude and reaction when she was asked to give these self-reporting evaluations?
She had no problem with it, Jeff. If you work, you put it down, you get paid, and you get paid. That's the way it is. I drive a truck, Jeff. I've been doing it my whole life. I got a Mack truck, as you all know. And the bureaucratic stuff that the government gives me to do, I mean, it's really unbelievable, Jeff. The rest of my hair wants to come out. The crap that they force down on us to do, to drive my own private truck. Never mind a no-show job. Here's another example, Jeff. And I love the kid. Don't get me wrong. He's like my other son. My son's friend went to work at the T. He's 44 years old, Jeff, and he's retired, and he's collecting a full pension. He's getting $4,000 a month, and he's collected.
At 44. John, did I hear you correctly? He's 44 years old. He's already retired with a $4,000 a month pension.
Benefits, Jeff. He doesn't have to worry about medical, nothing. Yeah, he's 44 years old, and it's unbelievable, Jeff. Where does this stop? I remember my wife had a pension when she started there, and probably 15 years ago they took the pension away, and they got what most private sector people have now, which is the 401k, and these people, the rot, Jeff, is starting. Let's face it, Jeff. The rot is starting with our senators and congressmen. That's where the rot's starting, Jeff. They're robbing us blind. And these Democrat and Republican government workers are screwing us over, too. Now, Jeff, when you have more government employees than non-government employees, the balance doesn't work. This is bankrupting us. I can't retire, Jeff, because there's no way I can pay my taxes. This kid, friend of my son, great kid, $4,400 a month pension. I get like $1,500 for Social Security. I have to work, Jeff. I'm just
curious. This friend of your son's friend, is he actually retired, or does he have another job and he's collecting this on the side?
Got another job too. He's a lot of these government, state and federal government employees, Jeff. They all do it. They all get, for instance, National Grid. They did away with their pensions with their last strike. They took the pensions away from them. But a lot of them are retired, and they're working for. They're double dipping. They're getting. Yep. They got a second job.
Yeah. No.
And they're young enough, Jeff, that they're probably going to get another pension.
I agree. No, John, you nailed it. That's the fraud. I mean, it's multiple frauds. I get it. But that's what Trump and Elon are saying. They go, it's not just that they're not working, which is, by the way, a form of theft. That's stealing. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. But he says, I bet you they're collecting the check and getting the pensions and getting the benefits, and they're doing a second job. In other words, they're not working at their federal job. So they're getting a second revenue stream and a second pension and more benefits. I mean, it's double dipping. It's disgusting. Really, it's disgusting. John, dynamite call. John, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. No, look, if I'm a federal bureaucrat, okay, a federal worker, just hear me out on this. You're paying my salary, okay? I work off the taxpayer. Taxpayer pays my salary. If I don't show up to work, if I'm twiddling my thumbs all day, or I'm not even at the office, I'm at home watching TV, I'm stealing your money. You're paying me for an XYZ job, whatever it is. Now, if I do my job, I'm doing my job. That's fine. But if I'm not doing my job, that's fraud, my friends. That's theft. Now, the expression, there are only so many horses that can pull a cart. If you start loading the cart with too many bureaucrats, too many fat cat paper pushers, too many people who aren't working, too many people who are collecting checks off of the back and the sweat of these horses that are pulling the cart, eventually the whole thing's going to collapse. And we're the horses pulling the cart. And what Trump and Musk are saying is, if we don't start lightening that load, the horse is going to die. And when the horse dies, the whole thing dies. And that's where we are right now. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Krista in Maine. Thanks for holding, Krista, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Krista.
I am actually going public for the very first time verbally on the record. And so just please bear with me while I'm doing this, because this is a very sensitive time for Maine and for Mainers. I am in neuropsych diagnostics, okay? And I wouldn't be doing this and putting my job on the line and everything else. But when Trump said, he gave me the cue to start not only an awareness, but for everyone, but for Maine itself. I know for a fact that Janet Mills is a fraud. Her sister is not a doctor. I know that for a fact. I work for Maine Health. She is in Maine Health. I have a lot of information on my personal Instagram page, which I made public for people to see, which could be probably give a better timeline and better gist of what is going on here in Maine. But people who are in the system, but there are people who are awake in the system, but their voices are small, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And look, Krista, I'm a little worried because I don't want you to lose your job, because we need good people like you. I'm being serious. We need good people like you. Look, so I'm going to say it. Janet Mills is crooked. Janet Mills is corrupt. Janet Mills is a disgrace to the people of Maine. Janet Mills, by the way, is in open defiance of the law. She's breaking the law. She's a criminal. She's violating Title IX laws. I know you're not talking about that. Biological men competing in women's sports, but that's what she's allowing in Maine. And she's openly defying Trump's executive order. And I'm telling you, she's going to cost the state, she's going to cost Mainers, the people of Maine, millions and millions and millions of dollars in education money. And look, this is the problem. They're dirty. They're all dirty. And they've got their sisters, brothers, sons, daughters, nephews, nieces. They've got everybody leeching off the system. And that's why now they're in a complete panic. And let me tell you what Maine needs, Krista. Maine needs its own Doge. Just like Massachusetts needs its own Doge. Just like California needs its own Doge. That's what we really need. I mean, don't get me wrong, Doge is great at the federal level. But no, look, Janet Mills is an absolute disgrace. She's a corrupt hack. And if people in Maine would just open their eyes and want to find the truth, it's right there for them to see them. And Krista, I'm telling you, you don't need to risk your job, because this woman is so stupid and so arrogant and so out of touch. Again, the rules she thinks don't apply to her. That she's going to contest Trump's executive order, and she's going to lose. And when she loses, and Maine loses all of its education funding, millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, I'm talking about elementary schools, high schools, colleges, school lunch programs, across the board. You are going to see a political rebellion against her like you've never seen. That's why Trump warned her. He said, good luck, because you don't have a career in politics. So, Krista, trust me when I tell you this. Janet Mills is going down. Krista, final word to you.
What I'm saying, this is why I'm going public, because you can even look it up yourself. Janet Mills' sister, Dora, was in the 2000s, she had her license revoked for Medicaid fraud. She is above us. She is in the leadership of all of the college systems and all of the university hospitals, and she is backed by the Alphons. Okay, the Alphons are silent, but here they are everywhere. They are in every building. They have made money off of cancer. That's one of the reasons why that it hits me so hard, because my dad almost died of stage 4 squamous cell carcinoma, and they knew. They did not. So Dora Mills refused to report it and have it looked at, essentially. And then she had just a slap on the wrist, and she just had her license back, and she's been just in the shadows above everyone. She is the powerhouse. She is the one that is the conductor, okay, and of whatever. And it's the messenger from the Alphons. The Alphons are also involved with the Asian trafficking. Okay, the marijuana, it is a silent, known thing. There's so much information everywhere. Everyone's talking about it, but they're not doing anything about it. They're not going to journalists. They're not going to platforms here. They are scared. When Trump told us nationally, and he denounced Janet on television, that was my cue, and that was everybody else's cue to stand up. Maine, it's time for Maine to be recognized.
Well, she's being investigated, literally, Krista, she's being investigated now as we speak. The Department of Education is launching an investigation. I suspect after this phone call, because Trump's people listen to this show, I suspect you may even have now the FBI or the DOJ investigating. You've got Dan Bongino now as the Deputy FBI Director. You've got Kash Patel confirmed now as FBI Director, and of course Pam Bondi as Attorney General. And as Dan Bongino said, I think it was yesterday or whenever, 2 days ago, whenever, he said cutesy time is over. So Janet Mills is in big trouble. She, just like, by the way, Maura Healey's in big trouble. So the corruption that we're seeing in some of these blue states is going to blow wide open. So, Krista, my advice to you is just keep getting that information out there, because eventually Janet Mills is going down. And I just got to say this, Krista, she's not very smart. This woman, she's not a political survivor, as they say. She's not smart. She really isn't. And Trump's coming for her. And she made a big mistake. Just like I think Michelle Wu, frankly, and Michael Cox made a big mistake on the whole sanctuary city issue. When you stick your chin out like this, you know, think of a boxing analogy, and you just stick your chin out and you taunt and you taunt and you taunt, you're begging to get knocked out. And I think that's what's going to happen to them. Krista, thank you very much for your courage, and thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Forrest on the North Shore. Thanks for holding, Forrest, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. It's nice to talk to you. I hope you and your family and everybody's well.
We're doing great. Thank you, Forrest. What's on your mind, Forrest?
Well, you brought up Charlie Baker earlier in the segment.
Yes.
And it brought back memories because Democrats want everybody to forget. The state of Massachusetts has set precedents in this people not coming to work or being paid for work and filing for work. Now, do you remember the Turnpike incident with the local state police? They were putting in overtime slips for allegedly time they weren't working.
Yes.
And they all got indicted.
Yes.
Okay, and that was under Baker. And Maura Healey was the state AG at the time. And Loretta Lynch was the federal AG at the time. And we're only talking, I believe it was only a few $100,000. And, you had 20, 30 troopers get indicted federally, and some with state charges for embezzlement. They were all fired. They lost their pensions and everything else. And at the time, Maura Healey, I believe, actually put together a division, false claim division. It's like a recovery thing to recoup money and the OIG and the AOG of Massachusetts, has these people pay back money. So what is the difference? And the reason why the feds got involved was because the overtime was being paid by the feds as an overtime thing, I believe, for traffic programs. But they all got indicted, Jeff, and it was little money. You're talking federal employees that haven't been to work in 4 or 5 years. I mean, I don't know what their salaries are, but combined, that has to be over a few $100,000.
Oh, so it's much more than that. No. I mean, look, Forrest, on the low end, they're making 100 to 125 to 150K on the low end. Many of them are making 200, 250, 300, 350. So you're looking at 4 or 5 years. Do the math. Let's go super low, okay? Super conservative, super cautious. $100,000 a year. I'm not counting pension, dental, health, all the other great benefits they get. That's $400,000 or $500,000 right there. That's $500,000 for one employee. And they haven't done a thing. I'm lifting a pen now. Okay, you can't see me, obviously. As I'm talking to you here at the iHeart studio, I'm lifting a pen. They haven't lifted what I just did now. They haven't done. They haven't lifted a pen, many of them. And that's what Elon and Trump are saying. They're saying, do you know how many haven't even opened the email? That was the point. We sent the email. They're so lazy. They're so corrupt. They're so abusive. They don't even check their own email. That's how much they're not doing their jobs. So, Forrest, you're right. Forget these people getting fired. Many of them can be indicted because this is out and out thievery. It's theft. It's theft of our money. That's why I keep saying over and over again, this is the biggest scandal in American history. At a minimum, the biggest scandal of our time. And it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. More with your calls next. Boy, that's where the getting is good, let me tell you. Should have been a nice federal government employee, huh? They stay at home, never come into the office, bring in, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, phenomenal pension, health care plan, dental plan, and you never have to work. I mean, it's better than welfare. 617-266-6868 is the number. Incredible. Really. It's just absolutely incredible what is now being exposed. Caitlin on Messenger makes an absolutely brilliant point. I mean, it's the checkmate argument. Jeff, even restaurant employees, servers, have to cash out at the end of their shift and print out a shift report of their total sales that day. And this is all in caps. Everyone has to report to someone. Federal employees, I would think there would be documentation, task reports, and such on these alleged accomplishments. Anything Fed related would automatically be documented, right? I mean, whatever your job in the federal government should have a paper trail. I mean, dang. These Democrat government employees are so, I can't use that on the air, Caitlin, are so pretentious. They actually believe they're indispensable and they don't need to report to anyone. Their delusions of grandeur blow my mind. The entire 4-year Biden administration was asleep. That's what happened. The administration shut everything down by releasing COVID. This is by design. It has to be. What the hell is their end game, Jeff? Socialism. I mean, in a nutshell, that was their end game. Their end game was to so bloat and expand the bureaucracy. It would crush the economy and, bring it's the Cloward-Piven strategy. Create so much chaos, open the borders, flood the country with illegals and invasion, declare war on energy, declare war on the middle working class, create this massive, huge, crushing bureaucracy loaded with incompetent, lazy federal bureaucrats who do nothing all day. And then eventually the whole system just comes crashing down. I mean, that was clearly their goal. That was clearly their objective. And look, under COVID, people were getting paid not to work. People were literally home cashing checks and they weren't working. Others technically had their jobs, but they weren't working. So they kept getting a check, but they don't do anything. And, most of us have had to come back to work. For a while I was working remotely as well. Not anymore. Most people have to go back to the office. Not these federal bureaucrats. Not these public sector workers. For us, again, the rules don't apply to them. And now they're basically staging a revolt with the aid of the media and trying to paint Elon as this monster. Well, I don't know if you've seen the latest Harvard-Harris poll. It is devastating to the Democrats. Contrary to the relentless, ceaseless attacks on Elon by the media, by the Dems, now by all these federal bureaucrat fat cats. Doge, incredibly popular. Shutting down the border, incredibly popular. Unleashing energy dominance, incredibly popular. Ending DEI, incredibly popular. Banning biological men from female sports, incredibly popular. Winding down and ending the war in Ukraine, incredibly popular. Trump now has sky-high approval ratings because the American people can see with their own eyes everything he said is 1,000% correct. And the government in particular is way too big, way too fat, way too bloated, way too corrupt, and it is rife, and I mean rife, with fraud and abuse. To the point, you've got hundreds of thousands of people collecting checks in the federal bureaucracy who don't do any work. I mean, I'm not talking 10, 15, 20 hours a week. I'm talking literally zero, nothing, nada. Ellie in Worcester. Thanks for holding, Ellie, and welcome.
Hey, buddy, how you doing? Love you in a non-sexual way.
Thank you, Ellie. No, I'm thinking, you know what? I should have been a federal bureaucrat, Ellie.
Oh, yeah.
That's the good life.
At least a politician. On a light note, did you hear the rumor that Whoopi Goldberg is going to change her last name to Cushion?
Ellie, what do you make of all this, Ellie?
Well, I have a question. Okay, right? This is when I go off on my tangent. It's like the question to these succubants, government succubants, I call them. Did they ever express an outcry when all those...
Mike, what the hell has gotten into you today, Mike? Mike is on the warpath today. All right, Ellie, I'm up against another break. Maestro Mike, they say Elon's power tripping. Elon, give Mike a call. Ellie, hang on, I'm coming right back. Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. Okay, I'm going to go right back to Ellie in Worcester, but this is from Alan on Messenger. And, I kind of agree with Alan. Jeff, who's running that place? I thought it was the Kuhner report, not the Mike memo. Insurrection? Question mark? Well, that's what I ask myself every day with Mike and Sandy. It's an insurrection in that control room. No, Mike's got to get the show on track in terms of hitting the clock. And so, is he a little overzealous? Yes, but that's his job. His job is to make sure that we break on time. God forbid he should be a little flexible, but let that go. Maestro Mike likes to, he likes to crack the whip. He loves that power. 617-266-6868. Okay, let's go right back to Ellie in Worcester. Ellie, please pick up where you left off.
Okay, yeah, Mike, you almost blew my eardrum out with that bumper music, by the way. Okay, what I wanted to say was, did these government succubants, right, ever express any outcry when all those bullied vets, nurses, firemen, police, and all of the workers in this country, they got kicked out of their jobs when they chose not to take the mRNA shot? And where was their indignation then for the injustice that was inflicted onto their fellow citizens? You never heard a peep, right? And did they ever think of all those who were kicked out of their jobs illegally? They still had to pay their taxes that kept the succubants' tushy-cushy jobs going, right? Did they ever think of that? No. So how offended were they? You didn't hear a peep out of them. Where was their outrage?
Dynamite.
Not a
Dynamite.
peep.
Ellie, dynamite point. You're not 100, you're 1,000% correct. When all of those people lost their jobs, not just in the federal bureaucracy, not just in the military, not just nurses and doctors, obviously, but people all across the country, because they refused to take the experimental shot, the mRNA jab. Where were they? Nowhere. They weren't crying about, I'm going to be out on the streets. These poor people aren't going to have a job. How are they going to pay their bills? How are they going to pay their mortgage? How are they going to pay their rent? They didn't care. But now, and again, look, if you're essential personnel, no one's touching your job. If you work hard at your job, as Elon and Trump have said, look, you show up to work, you work hard, no one's touching your job. But if you're not doing anything all day, or you're twiddling your thumbs, or what is now starting to become more and more apparent, you don't even show up to work. You're not even working. It's basically a phantom job. Well, now all of a sudden, the sky is falling. The end is nigh. How can you do this? So, Ellie, you're absolutely spot on. You're spot on. And look, how many recessions have we had? How many people get laid off all the time? That's just life in the private sector. So, my advice to all these federal bureaucrats complaining and crying, welcome to the real world. Again, the rules apply to you now. They always thought the rules didn't apply. I'm sorry. The rules apply. It's a new administration. It's a new era. It's a new president. It's a new country. Ellie, thank you very much for that call. Let me just give you a taste, okay? It's not specifically Doge or federal government job related, but it just shows you the sense of entitlement that so many liberals have had for so long, where they think the rules don't apply to them. So this is a TikToker. It's one of these influencers, as they call them, social media influencers, who goes by the name Sarah C. Roberts. Now, listen to this. She posts a video calling for the assassination of Elon Musk. And listen to what else she admits to. It tells you everything you need to know. Roll cut 7, Mike.
I promised myself I would avoid the news. But obviously I haven't. Here's my one thought. I mean, I have many thoughts. Elon Musk, we need to X him, and by X I mean formerly known as assassination. And someone from FBI is going to show up. Arrest me. You don't have enough people to even investigate me at this point. I haven't filed my taxes in 8 years. And yet, no one's covered me. So, I'm going to say it. Let's assassinate some other.
Okay, now, the reason why I'm playing this cut, you're going to say, well, Jeff, who cares what some TikToker says? Oh, no. She's in big trouble. because of her big mouth and because everybody now is a narcissist, everybody has to blab everything on social media and think they're a star. Not only now is she being investigated for calling for the assassination of Elon. That's illegal, by the way. And notice she said, first of all, when you listen to her, you can tell she's not joking. She even then says, I'm not effing joking. She goes like, in other words, I want you, I'm not kidding. I want him dead. Okay. But then she hasn't paid taxes in 8 years. She hasn't paid taxes in 8 years. And she's taunting Elon. Again, I go back to the boxing analogy. Sticking the chin out and taunting your opponent. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Bang. That's what happens. They get caught, they get knocked out. Well, Elon found out about this and said, oh, you're threatening me? Okay. A, you're being investigated. B, Doge is now going to look into it. Treasury Department is now looking into it. Honey, you're going to get investigated now. That's tax fraud. You may end up going to jail. So, and now she's shocked. She's shocked. Now, yes, is she stupid? No question about it. Is she completely arrogant and entitled? No question about it. But again, the rules don't apply to her. This is liberalism in a nutshell. Liberals believe they can commit any crime, any corruption, any fraud, look at the Biden administration. Look at the Biden regime. Now, forget the politicians. Here's a TikToker. I don't have to pay taxes. Why should I pay taxes? I can threaten to kill somebody. What you gonna do? Nothing's gonna happen to me. And now, welcome to reality. Guess what? The rules now do apply to you. And she's now, you want to talk about a meltdown. She's in a complete meltdown. So this is what I'm saying. They don't show up to work. They don't go to the office. They don't do their jobs. They don't pay their taxes. They don't abide by the law. We can go to sanctuary cities, sanctuary states. They don't comply with the law. They defy federal immigration law. I could go on and on. So they're constantly breaking the law. And now they're shocked that the rules are finally being made to apply to them. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Appreciate it having me on. Jeff, because they were shrouded in a shield of corruption. They felt that they are impervious to law. They were impervious to having to go to work, that they could say anything that they wanted. We didn't even matter. Whatever we said, whatever common sense we've had, we were beaten down. This country came to the threshold. This last election was it. You were right. We would have lost it. We would have slipped into communism, socialism, bankruptcy, Third World War, drugs everywhere, crime. I shudder to think where we would be. But we are America. We are strong. The conservatives that listen to the station and all around this country, we saw it. We saw through all of this. And it was us that fought through it. We were on our backs. Now we're standing up toe-to-toe with all this corruption and all these far-out liberals. Now, 6 weeks, Trump is just miraculous. He's now showed all what I call not the super liberal moonbats, but the ones that actually work every single day like we do, how much actual corruption is going on, and you can see it in the polls. It's not just conservatives now. It's the people that even these liberals have to work every day. They've got to pay their rent. They got to pay their mortgage. They got to pay their electric bills and food and whatever.
Well, Dan, you're right. Look, it's not just conservatives. It's not just Republicans. It's not just independents. Many disaffected Democrats now, their eyes have been opened. Trump has opened them. Elon's opened them. Doge has opened them. Keep opening their eyes. 8:50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Okay, just very quickly, again, this doesn't deal with DOGE specifically or federal bureaucrats or federal workers or employees who think they're a special class, a separate class who are entitled to keep their jobs forever. And basically, many of them say, won't even work very much and work from home and, basically twiddle their thumbs and do nothing all day. Okay. But it goes to the rules don't apply to them. This liberal mentality that is infecting much of our country. Lester Holt. I never cared for him, but he's been a presence on NBC's nightly news now for, years and years and years. Lester Holt is now retiring. He said he's going to, I think, still stay on Dateline, but for the most part, doing the nightly news, he's done. Now, you're going to say, Jeff, what does this have to do with the rules don't apply to them? Here it is. This is what Lester Holt said when he received a journalism award. They gave each other the fake news, the Democrat media complex, the state-run media. They give each other awards all the time. That's all they do is give themselves awards. Well, he gave the game away. And here's what he said. Quote, according to Lester Holt, he said that fairness is overrated. Quote, I think it's become clear that fairness is overrated. The idea that we should always give two sides equal weight and merit does not reflect the world we find ourselves in. Now, I'm telling you the cardinal rule of journalism for at least the last several hundred years is you always give both sides equal weight and equal merit. That you be fair, that you be nonpartisan, that you be objective, that you always cover both sides of an issue, both sides of a story, and then let the readers decide. But you see, the traditional rules of journalism don't apply. And this is why the fake news media, the establishment corporate media, is now in permanent decline. That's why nobody trusts the news. Nobody trusts the media. Because people like Lester Holt, and I can run down the whole list, whether it's ABC News, CBS News, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, go on, and the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Boston Globe, the Associated Press, I could go on and on. That's their mentality now. But what's fairness? Fairness is overrated. No, we don't have to. It's a different world. It's propaganda now. We set the narrative. We tell Americans what to think. We're here to destroy Trump. We're here to push an agenda, a radical left globalist agenda. They pay our salaries. We do their bidding. So we don't do both sides anymore. The rules of journalism don't apply to us. Here's another one. Okay? They're cleaning house at MSNBC. Alex Wagner, gone. Joyless Joy Reid, gone. Why? Because the ratings are in the toilet. The ratings are they're rock bottom. They're tanking. They're cratering. So they're trying to clean house at MSNBC. So listen now to this. Joyless Joy Reid, and she's a hardcore racist, an anti-American racist. She's basically the black version of David Duke. That's what Joy Reid is. She's a race arsonist, she's a race hater, and she's a bigot through and through. There's no question. The woman's frankly, I think, insane. Well, her ratings were so bad that if MSNBC said, who can justify paying this woman $3 to $4 million a year? Who can justify paying that kind of an outrageous salary to someone who has such horrible ratings? Well, It was her last show. Yesterday was her last show. Listen to her now. I believe this is on a podcast. Crying, literally crying. There are tears streaming down her cheeks because MSNBC, forgive me, canceled her show. Roll cut 13, Mike.
My show had value and that, I'm sorry, that what I was doing had value. And in the end, I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV. And I think this is kind of like being on TV, so I apologize. And then it mattered. I see Karen, is there, and she's been texting me as well. And so what I will just say is that in the end, thank you. Where I land is that the moment of guilt that I felt that I went hard on so many issues, whether it was the Black Lives Matter issues of a young baby, or a mom or a dad that was killed, or when we opened up people's eyes to the fact that Asian Americans were being targeted and not just black folks, or went hard for immigrants who've done nothing but come to this country like my parents did and try to make a life.
I was fired. I was laid off. So unfair. No. Now, let me, Sandy and I were specifically discussing this in the pre-show meeting. Okay? Let me tell you what she said to me, practically verbatim. Who does this woman think she is? I would be embarrassed if you have nobody watching your show. Your ratings are horrible, absolutely horrible. But you think you're not just entitled to be on the air. Again, the rules don't apply to you. But that you're entitled to make $3, $4, $5 million a year? And what? They're just supposed to keep you on the air forever? So you continue to get goose eggs when it comes to ratings. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So you have no audience, no rating share, nobody's watching, and you're going to continue to collect a multi-million-dollar check every single year to spew your racist left-wing drivel. And this is just going to continue forever? Like what? You don't ever get fired? You're never held accountable? The rules never apply to you? Now, as Sandy said to me, and she's completely right, not 100, 1,000%. Jeff, how long would you be on the air if you didn't have sky-high ratings? Maybe 1 quarter? Maybe they give you a quarter? 3 months? And say, Kuhner, your ratings have dipped here. You better turn it around, buddy. Whatever is wrong, you better fix it because we're not going to give you another 3 months. In other words, if I don't deliver high ratings on a consistent basis, as I have for over a decade now, I'm out on the street. I'm out of a job. I got to bust my butt every single day to produce a great show or the best show that I can. Why? Because if the ratings start going down, I'm in big trouble. I never once thought, God is my witness, okay? God is my witness. iHeart owes me a check? No, they don't. iHeart, and I'm not making millions. Let me tell you this right now, okay? So, iHeart owes me a check? No. iHeart owes me a show? No. They have to keep me on the air forever? No. That this is what? Discrimination, persecution, harassment? It's demeaning, it's insulting, it's offensive? If they let me go? No. That's right. It means they hate Croatians. You know, Sandy was just saying that in my ear. Like, I would never say that. I mean, like, hey, look, the ratings were horrible. I don't know what else to tell you. So they let me go. That's it. You know, what am I going to do now? I don't know. Sell life insurance. I don't know. I'll find something to do. I don't know what else to tell you. So Sandy's completely correct. She's 1,000% correct. And that's how these people in the media are. They think their jobs are permanent. Now, true story, very quickly, because I saw this firsthand, and I was introduced to the swamp over 20 years ago. So what I did was, for a while, I worked at a education think tank, okay, the Fordham Foundation, center-right think tank focusing on education issues, whether it be school choice, curriculum, whatever, empowering parents and students in the classroom. Anyway, and how bad and nefarious and pernicious the teachers' unions were. Okay, and then it was political correctness that was poisoning the schools. Now it's much more worse. It's wokeism and transgenderism and the radical Black Lives Matter critical race theory agenda. But at the time, it was political correctness. So I worked often on L Street, which is right next to K Street, which is where all the lobbyists are, okay, in Washington, D.C. So we shared a building. Okay, we had a beautiful office space. We shared it with the Postal Service Union. So every day, I come into the office. Now, I had flexible hours. I would come in at 9:30 and leave about 7. Okay, 7:30. So I was the communications director. So they didn't need me there at 8:30 or 9 o'clock because I had all kinds of other responsibilities. So they said, no, Kuhner, look, you want to leave later? That's fine. You can come in later. Don't worry about it. Great. Okay. So I would come in at about 9:30-ish and then leave at about 7:30-ish. Okay. Long story short, I come in at 9:30. Who do I see? There's Timmy. You may ask, Jeff, who the hell is Timmy? Timmy was the guy who led the union, or at least that sector of the union, that segment of the union, at that building. He's supposed to be there at 9 o'clock. That's his job definition. He has to be there. It's an office full of people who work for the postal union. He's supposed to be there at 9. Every single morning, I'm in the elevator. 9:20, 9:25, 9:30. Who do I see in the elevator coming into work? There's Timmy. So I'm saying to myself, you're the top guy. You're supposed to set the example for everybody else in the office. He's consistently late. And he would brag to me in the elevator. I make my own hours. I make my own hours. Okay. So I start to ask Timmy, what do you do all day? This is Timmy's day. Now, to all of you poor postal workers out there, schlepping in the cold, I kept thinking of you the whole time. So there you are, busting your rear end, getting the mail in our mailboxes in the freezing cold in winter. These are the salaries that you're paying for. And he made hundreds of thousands of dollars. Plus, the whole benefits, the gold-plated health care, the pension plan, the dental plan, the whole bit. So this is Timmy's day. Comes in at about 9:25, 9:30. Then he goes into his office, makes himself a coffee, says hi to people, opens up his computer, checks his emails. Well, now it's about 10:15. So what does Timmy do at 10:15? Timmy at 10:15 says, I take about half an hour to answer emails. So from 10:15 to 10:45, Timmy is answering emails. But you know what he does at 10:45? There was a mandated break. Everybody in that office, including Timmy, went for a break. And I saw them at the break because they had a separate room, fruits, coffee, danishes, donuts, popcorn. And the break was supposed to be technically a 10-minute break. It started at 10:45. I'm telling you, they were there till 11:10 or 11:15. So it's okay. It's 11:15. He stuffed his face. I don't know how much coffee this guy can put into him. I'd be going to the bathroom every 2 minutes if I drank that much coffee, but let that go. I think he's answered a few emails. Well, now it's 11:15. This is what Timmy tells me. At 11:15, what can you get done? Because there's lunch at 12. So Timmy says he just hangs around in his office, reads the newspaper. He loved the Washington Post. That's the Democratic Party paper. And then it's noon. What do you think Timmy does at noon? He goes out for a 2-hour lunch. 2 hours. Timmy's out of the office, stuffing his face. Now he's back at 2 o'clock. He then holds a staff meeting to talk about what they're all doing. They're not doing much, trust me. The staff meeting lasts till 2:45. What do you think happening at 2:45? Another afternoon coffee break. Again, with the popcorn, the danishes, the fruits, they're stuffing their... I would be 400 pounds if I ate like that. That goes on till about, 3:15, 3:30. Timmy answers a few more emails. I said, well, Tim, he says, I'm done by about 4 o'clock. I said, well, Tim, what do you do between 4 and 5? He goes, well, by then, we're all leaving the office at 5 o'clock. It's an hour left. There's nothing. What can you do in an hour? He goes, so I read a little bit more. He was into sports. He loved the Washington Capitals. He was a big hockey guy. So he would look online. Are they playing? What the stats are? That was his day. Every single day. Every single day. He maybe worked an hour a day. I mean, if you consider answering emails work, okay? That's it. He ate. He drank. He stuffed his face. He slept in. By the way, he bragged often how he would nap in his office. He had a beautiful, apparently, he had a beautiful plush leather couch. And he's napping in the office. That's what I'm saying. That's the job I wanted. I kept telling everybody, whose job do you want? I want Timmy's job. That's the job I want. So when I saw that, I'm like, this is a racket of the highest order. I mean, this is highway robbery. This is highway robbery. Now, multiply that over and over and over again, and you get a sense now of public sector unions, of their leadership, of the federal bureaucracy, of members of Congress, now of the swamp. That's Washington, D.C. It is full of people like Timmy and die-hard Democrat. Die-hard Democrat. The only time this guy ever moved his ass was to go vote. Oh, and he got everybody in the office to vote. And he got his wife to vote. And he got his kids to vote. Everybody voted Democrat. That, when it was election time, he was working. That's when he was working. So every 2 years, midterms and the general election, then there's Timmy. Outside of then, Timmy doesn't work. 617, and we're paying for it. Or in this case, not you and me, wasn't a government bureaucrat, but all of you poor postal workers out there, your union dues, that's where they're going. So, hey, when they say, do you give to charity? From now on, say yes, because you take care of Timmy and his family. Kenny in Weston, thanks for holding, Kenny, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Kenny.
Great show.
Thank you, Kenny.
Hey, years and years back when I worked at General Dynamics, the shipyard, we used to, they used to give us an assignment I was a welder down there, and, you'd have to do a certain amount of per feet, per weld, per day. That was you accountable for. And not only that, Jeff, even if the guy next to you and the three other guys had the same assignment, you know what you'd end up doing? Just for 5 reasons, you'd be like, yeah, hey, I'm going to get this done in 6 hours. You take that kind of fight. It'd be like a little competition, so, but I don't really see what the problem is. Every job that I've had, there's accountability. It's as simple as that. It's just, there's no crime, there's no nothing. And secondly, the last point I want to bring up, you got the accountable for the government workers. Wouldn't it be a good idea maybe to even have the politicians may find out what their work week looks like, maybe, possibly? I'm just kind of curious.
Kenny, look, when I was reporter an editor at the Washington Times, and then I worked in the think tank world, and then I got my own magazine, and I edited my own magazine. Long story short, all the years in Washington, I used to say when I would go on talk radio, if the American people knew how bad the corruption in this city was, there would be a massive political rebellion. I said there would be a revolt. That Americans would be sickened at how their tax money is being used, abused, and misappropriated, stolen. And you'd be shocked at how little they work in Washington, how little these federal bureaucrats in Washington work. That's why, I'm not kidding, that's why they're panicking over a 5-minute email. It just, it should take you 5 minutes. Name me 5 things you did last week. They're running to the media. This is harassment. This is persecution. This is offensive. This is discrimination, because they can't name you 5 things. Now, if you were to actually go like what you're suggesting, give me a blow by blow. What do you do every day? I want you week after week after week, a full review. You'd be disgusted. You'd be horrified. We had a VA worker call in, Mary. What is it, at 6:30? She said, half have to be fired. She goes, I'm telling you, half. You can get rid of half. And we're actually leaner, meaner, and more efficient. So basically, you can go to an office building, every second person, and go, fire you, and you. Oh, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Maureen in Braintree. Thanks for holding, Maureen, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeffrey, and I have to tell you, a wonderful job you do every single day.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Maureen.
Come and clean this house like there is no tomorrow. He wants me to list 5 things. I haven't been asked, but I can do that in well under 1 minute. We stayed out here every single day, me and my other peasants, okay, that you throw peanuts at us. We worked through COVID. I mean, this is just utterly ridiculous. And the theft and the thievery that they're finding is utterly disgusting.
Well, Maureen.
I'm heated.
No, I understand. You should be. No, you really should. Maureen, look, I got another email from my sister. She's hot under the collar, just like you, red hot. And I don't blame her either. She just, I have 2 nephews, as you know, Matthew and Andrew. They both work. It's a very nice coffee shop just out in Tucson. Very nice. Good coffee, nice muffins, good donuts. Anyway, and they work hard. My sister said, Jeff, you know that Matthew and Andrew, literally, they're timed. Every time they have to serve coffee to the customers. Like, management is like, come on, how long does it take to make the coffee? How long does it take to serve the coffee? Customer comes first. Let's go. Let's shake it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. So, my sister's like, these are students who are working, they go to college. They're going to University of Arizona. And this is they're working about 20, 25 hours a week. These are student workers, and they're on the clock, and they're being held accountable every single day. They could tell you 5 things like you in less than a minute. And so they're constant progress reports. They got to make sure that they're serving the customer. They're, this idea that they can just sit around and twiddle their thumbs and do nothing, they'd be fired. As my sister said, they'd be out on the street within less than an hour. So, this is what I'm talking about. People in the real world, people in the private sector, that's what real productive work is. Maureen, what we're starting to find out, these people aren't just lazy. They're not just incompetent. They're not just entitled. They're all of that. But they're really corrupt. Again, this is thievery. These are thieves. And they've been making fun of us and mocking us and using us and exploiting us. I think, long enough. And, my advice to Elon and Trump, you may disagree. Any federal worker that even complains about this email, out, fire them on the spot. Because to me, any complaint is an admission that these people are not doing their jobs. Am I wrong, Maureen?
You're not wrong at all. You know what? I've worked since I could, okay? Because nothing was ever handed to me. You take pride in what you do. You don't sit back and mooch off of the system at all. Go there, do your job. You were hired to do something. Go do it and do it the right way.
I'm with you. Maureen, thank you very much for that call. I really, really appreciate it. Paul in Avon. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing this morning?
Good. How are you, Paul?
I'm reminded of the famous quote in the movie Office Space. Do you remember that movie?
I saw it many years ago. So, what's the quote? Remind me, Paul.
It says, so what would you say it is that you do here? When the company came in and they started trimming, had all the employees go up and so that's the quote. What it is, but it's a great movie. I mean, it's funny, and it's
very, very funny. No, I agree. And by the way, the only thing is, it's a private sector company, right? In the movie, they should it a government job, like a government bureaucracy, and then it would have been perfect. It would have been a masterpiece. But you're right, Paul. I never. What is it that you do here? And they're like, geez. Can I get back to you on that? Paul, what do you make of Elon sending that email and the media saying this is harassment, this is persecution, these federal workers now are being intimidated and bullied? Do you think this argument's going to have any legs with the American people?
No, Jeff, because everybody sees the hypocrisy in their outrage. And as that woman alluded to earlier, a few callers, she was spot on. And I'd like to add a few things to it. I didn't remember any outrage when they shut gyms down in salons and shut down just about every industry that they could think of. I didn't remember them crying anything about that. I didn't remember them saying, like, and if I'm not mistaken, Jeff, I believe all the federal employees, Congress...
they got exemptions, Paul. They did not have to take the jab. We did. And now we're starting to find out why. Because so many of them were at home. They were just putting their feet up and watching TV all day. Austin's bulldozer cleaning up the liberal bull. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Speaking of people that the rules don't apply to. Politicians. Okay, you got to hear this. Huge story. Ties in exactly to the theme of today's show. Again, it's not specifically Doge related. The rules don't apply to them. And that clearly is the case with our political class. Now, many of you know Texas Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw. Okay, he's called Eye Patch McCain. He's got that famous eye patch on his right eye. He is a neoconservative. He is a rhino. He is a warmonger. He is a globalist. Again, he's trying to pick up the mantle of John McCain, hence Eye Patch McCain. He was on with GB News, and the host asked him, well, what do you say? You're talking about Ukraine, obviously, because the French president, Macron, was in Washington to talk to Trump yesterday about ending the war in Ukraine and what a post-war settlement would look like. And so the host asks Dan Crenshaw, Eye Patch McCain, well, what do you say to Tucker Carlson's argument that the $100 billion plus that the American taxpayers have sent to Ukraine in massive military and financial assistance was essentially flushed down a rat hole, that it was squandered, frittered away, that this could have been used to build a wall, to build infrastructure, to deal with veterans here at home, that there were so many other better uses of the money. Listen to his response. Roll cut 23, Mike.
What do you make of that argument that all this money could have been spent to help Americans and not Ukrainians?
Well, you can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. We spend 75-80% of our budget on a welfare state in America, on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I would love to ask Tucker what he thinks that $100 billion should be spent on, and if he would vote for it as a conservative. Tucker doesn't know what he's talking about. Tucker likes to visit Moscow and talk about how great the grocery stores are. So I don't really take his advice very seriously.
Okay. Now, that's fine. It's a disagreement. We can agree to disagree. That's fine. That's America. So now the interview is over. And the host asks Crenshaw, remember, he's a member of Congress, a Republican from Texas, and a former Navy SEAL. And he's asked by the guy, the host, now the interview is over. And he says, hey, just curious, have you ever met Tucker? Quote, here's what he said. If I ever meet Tucker Carlson, I'll effing kill him. I'm not joking. And then the host is chuckling like, oh, he's not serious, right? It's like he's trying to be funny. And then Crenshaw goes back to him and adds, and he says, no, seriously, I would kill him. Now, here is the audio. We tried to amplify it as best we could. You can't quite hear it, but I'll play the cut anyway. In other words, he's now calling for Tucker to be killed. That he wants to kill and assassinate Tucker Carlson. Roll cut 23A, Mike.
Have you ever met Tucker?
Okay, there's no question that what he said was, again, have you ever met Tucker? Have you ever met Tucker? His answer is, if I ever meet Tucker Carlson, I got to bleep out the F word. I'll effing kill him. I'm not joking. So the host is like smiling and like kind of laughing, like sort of like you're joking, right? Like it's a joke. And Crenshaw looks at him and says, no, seriously, I would kill him. Now, a couple of quick points, and I want to go right back to the phone lines. As I said on X last night, Crenshaw is an eye patch McCain. He's a warmonger. He's a neoconservative. He's a fanatic when it comes to the aid for Ukraine. I think he's clearly a shill for the CIA. I think there's no question. And the military-industrial complex. He's also an irresponsible idiot. You're a politician, and you think you can call for the murder and assassination of a journalist? And that nothing is going to happen to you? That there's going to be no consequences whatsoever? Again, that the rules don't apply to you? That you can brazenly, on a hot mic? And by the way, they were still filming, and he knew they were still filming. And you could say, no, I'll effing kill him. The guy's like, okay, come on, you're joking. No, I'm serious. I want to kill him. If I met him, I'd kill him. He's got to go. He's got to go. Now, at a minimum, he's got to be primaried. Now, what's making this scandal even worse is that Marjorie Taylor Greene then confronted Crenshaw on X. And she said, did you just call for the murder and assassination of my friend, Tucker Carlson? Crenshaw writes back, LOL, laugh out loud. No. His office is now trying to claim, no, I never called for him to be killed. And everyone's like, Look at how you so easily and carelessly lie to us. We've got you on a hot mic, man. We've got you on freaking tape. That you want to kill him. I want to effing kill him. No joke. Okay, come on. No, I'm serious. I want to kill him. We've got you on a hot mic, and you're going to deny what you said? And you're going to lie to us with a straight face? Again, they think the rules don't apply to them. So, let me tell you, if I was ever interviewed, okay, any interview, forget Tucker Carlson, any other journalist, okay, anyone, take your pick, okay, Rachel Madcow on MSNBC, I don't care, take your pick. Jeff, have you ever met Rachel? No, but I'd effing kill her. No joke. Okay, come on, you're joking. No, I'm serious. I'd kill her. If I saw her, I'd kill her. I'd shoot her dead. I'm gone. First of all, she's filing charges against me. I've got the police beating down my door. And I am finished. I'm finished. I'm off the air. I just threatened to murder somebody. Now, with this loser, like all these other sleazebag politicians, okay, and he's a rhino's rhino, he thinks, nah, I can threaten to kill a journalist, shoot him in the face. Who cares? I'm a politician, baby. Nothing ever happens to us. The rules don't apply. We got to primary him. We got to primary this guy. I don't know if he's suffering from PTSD. I don't know if he's got a serious screw loose. I don't know if he's a pawn of the CIA and he's enraged that Tucker Carlson has effectively won the argument. You know, as Sandy rightly said again in the pre-show meeting, she said, Jeff, look at how they're lashing out at conservatives who've been vindicated. He's been vindicated by the war in Ukraine. Tucker's been saying for years, the money's being stolen. The money's being squandered. The money's being frittered away. And of course, it turns out to be 1,000% true. And instead of saying, geez, you know what? That tin pot dictator in Kiev, yeah, he took us for a ride. Instead, I want to kill him. I'm going to shoot him. Kill him. Effing kill him. It's time that people be held accountable and that politicians face the consequences of their words and their actions. Crenshaw has to go. He needs to be removed. Primary his ass. Agree, disagree. John in Woburn. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Jeff, how are you this morning?
Very good. How are you, John?
I'm doing fantastic, other than what you're talking about, because it gets my blood boiling every single day, and I love you, brother. In a non-sexual way, of course. I have a couple of humorous anecdotes for you. I used to work for the Department of Defense up at Hanscom Air Force Base in Bedford, Mass.
Okay.
And I was there for 6 years or so, and I had to get out. But, here's a little story for you. We had Clinton come through one year, and from the plane tarmac, they call it the parade route, out the gate. It's probably a quarter of a mile. And
John, can you hang on? We're gonna stop. We're gonna just take a quick break. Mike, you're batting 1,000 today, Mike. Hey, God forbid you should be a little flexible, Mike. God forbid. John, I'm coming right back to you next. 50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare. 617-266-6868. Okay, let's go right back to John in Woburn. John, you worked in the Defense Department for many years, at Hanscom Base in particular. One time, Bill Clinton was arriving, and then, of course, Maestro Mike had to take me to break. So, please pick up where you left off, John.
Yeah, he did interrupt us a little bit, but that's okay. That's radio, right? Yeah, I worked for civil engineering, Jeff. I was a front end loader operator, yada yada. We do all the carpentry, plumbing, keep the base running, basically. And Clinton came in one year. I don't know if it was 97, 98. And there's a parade route. It's about a quarter of a mile, and he came in like December, and we had probably 3-foot snowbanks on the parade route to him, to get him out the gate. And my bosses had told me, they said, we have to load up the hydroseeders. Now, hydroseeders you use for the grass seed and spray the lawns, the hydroseeder, correct? We had 3 of them, and they had us fill them up with white paint. And we watered it down. We had to paint the snowbanks white so he could see nice white snow because they were all dirty in December. Obviously the snowbanks are dirty. We had to paint the snowbanks on the parade route so he could see white snow. I mean, the waste is astronomical, Jeff. I mean, that's just one story. Another story I have for you. They had us get about 12 containers, and I don't know if you've ever been on a military base, but there's some big, big buildings. I'm talking 100, 150 desks and all the petitions around the desks. They had us do this every 2 years, Jeff. We cleaned out the whole building, threw everything out in these containers. I would sit out there in my front end loader, and they would just keep bringing the stuff out and throw it in my front bucket. And I loaded probably 12 containers, brand new stuff, 2 years old. I mean, this is new stuff. This isn't 10, 12 years old. I did it every 2 years, 3 different times. We threw it all out. They brought all new stuff in to redo all these buildings over. I mean, the waste, and I just shook my head saying the waste is astronomical in government. I just don't understand this. I mean, and another time, we have 2 generals on the base at all time on Andrews Circle. They have 2 nice houses. They, the generals, of course. And I actually did all the grounds too with my crew. And I did this 3 times too, every 2 years. I would replant all new plantings around the house, whatever the general wanted, wherever he was from or whatever. And I would say, look, this stuff's 2 years old. It's not even growing yet. Well, I want it out. I want to put this in. I want this. I want this. And, of course, oh, yes, sir, we'll do it for you. The point is, I mean, the waste is astronomical, and nobody seems to be touching on the health care. Remember when the government wanted to take over the health care system? I screamed at the radio saying, no way can they do this because the waste is astronomical. Say goodbye to our health care system if the government ever got a hold of it, because it would be problematic for nobody.
John, if they get a control over the entire healthcare system, that's the final nail in our coffin. We're done. John, just very quickly, though, I want to go back to your first example. What's it to Bill Clinton if the snowbanks are a little dirty and they're not white? Like, okay, so the snowbanks aren't white. I mean, it means that much to Bubba? It meant that much to him that we had to go and waste so much money to paint dirty snow white? Like, that's how much it meant to him?
Jeff, I mean, it's. You honestly think he was looking out the window? I'm pretty sure he has other things on his mind than looking at clean nice white snowbanks on the way out of the base. I mean, it's just one example of the astronomical waste within the government. It's incredible, Jeff. It really is, and
it's obscene. Honestly, John, it's obscene. And we work so hard for our money. You do, I do, this audience does, and to just see it squandered, flushed down the toilet like this, wasted like this, honestly, it makes your stomach turn. John, thank you. Great stories. Great stories. Rob in Maine. Rob, I hate to do this to you. 1 minute. The floor is yours. Go.
Thanks, Jeff. Time is short. Yeah, that you're extending the idea of Doge to the states can take it another step and look at municipalities, because there are firms that actually do what's called audits of these municipalities to see if, they've got too many people pushing the paper. 5 women in the office, for instance, when you need 2 to do the job in the tax office. So I just thought I'd bring that up because your show spreads this stuff. And it's one more thing we can look at is extending the Doge idea to municipalities in terms of audits. Thanks for all you do, Jeff.
No, thank you, Rob. That's a brilliant idea. I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. You know the expression, you have to crawl before you can walk, walk before you can run. I'm with you, Doge, to all these corrupt localities and municipal governments. Let's start federal. Brace ourselves for everything that we're seeing. Go to the states. And then if we're still not all collectively vomiting, let's move on to the localities. But I guarantee you, what you're going to find at the local state level, just as bad, if not worse than the federal level. So I'm Doge all the way. Local, state, federal. Clean the whole damn thing out. I gotta go. Bye-bye.